I'm Mike,
And I'm Amber. Welcome to the Covenant Chronicles,
where we tell you the truth about relationships.
giving you the tools to build the foundation you always needed. Welcome back to the Covenant Chronicles.
Oh, we're starting? That's crazy.
See, we're back to you not paying attention.
Well, okay. You didn't really be like, yo, are you ready? Are we doing this? I'm like actively talking about the dogs being prancy paws outside. And
I mean, to be fair, I did ask a couple times. I just didn't do it right before then.
okay.
Well, we're here now, so.
Well, that we are.
What are we talking about?
Circle. Literally
They're round.
Yep. Literally. That's the whole podcast. Round circles.
Yeah.
No, we want to talk about friends and, your circle of influence. We mentioned it on the last podcast, we were talking about some stuff we had gone through, and I think that this is something that is undervalued, maybe not undervalued, but overlooked completely when it comes to relationships and what it can and cannot do for you. I feel that it is a thing where people stick their head in the sand when it comes to relationships and circle of influence and the impact it has on your relationship. I basically dipped my toe in the water and kind of threw out a controversial thing on the last podcast, because we had kind of slipped in, hey, this is what the next one we're going to talk about, and here's why. And that is basically that if your circle of influence and your friends, when it comes to your relationship, I mean, it applies to all aspects of your life, right? However, we're talking about the relationship side of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're either encouraging and helping connection, or they're creating disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
There is no in between. And people are going to not like that I say that, and they're going to get defensive about it. But here's the thing. If you're getting defensive, it's because your circle of influence creates disconnection in your relationship.
Yeah, probably.
And this is a massive issue when it comes to relationships, right? And we've talked about this before, just different parts of it, and talking to people that you know about your relationship and how that can be a very fine line to walk. And in most cases, most people should steer far away from it.
Yeah.
But the other flip side is true as well, right? Because when you have community, when you have a tribe that you can rely on, that will be there when you potentially need them to be, or to help lift you up, it can be massively impactful, right? And there's a massive difference of what conversations are with your closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
If you are hanging out with, it's from a guy's perspective now, if you are hanging out with guys and you're talking about women, and by women, I don't mean your wife, just women in general,
Mm-hmm.
talking crap, talking about a girl you've seen somewhere, talking whatever, those are probably not people you should be hanging out with.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about tribe, right, and the men that guys should be around, right? I want to do this in a little bit of a split part, in the sense that I want to talk about men for a minute, let you talk about women, and then we'll kind of come together on how this looks as couples. But, when we talk about like stuff, right? We talked about on the last podcast all the crap that we had kind of been really struggling with and um fighting through, and kind of gave a picture into a good portion of it, right? It obviously wasn't everything, and talked about how we navigated, how we worked through stuff, and well, we didn't necessarily get into the support of friends, right? When we had when I started talking to, because we don't share a ton with our friends typically, and when I started talking to some of like my closest friends about kind of some of the stuff that was going on, the kind of stuff, the kind of conversations that we have, right? Regardless of if I have anything going on, is, one of them, we have a group chat where there's a couple of us, and every day, whoever gets to it first, there's one of us that just says, "Hey, how are you brothers doing today? What are you doing today to work closer to your vision? What are you doing to make sure that your life is focused around glorifying God,
Mhm.
right? And what are you doing to make today great, right? It's every day. That's how our mornings start, right?
Mhm.
Um, this week what was a tougher week. Regardless of that, regardless of if it's a tough week or not, one of my good friends, hey, how can I be praying for you and your family? How are you doing? What can I do to serve you? Right?
Mhm.
Like that's a regular conversation. These are the conversations we have. And then when we sit around and us quote unquote BSing, right? We might talk about world events a little bit in the sense that we loop it back to biblical talks,
Mhm.
right? Or we, if we're not talking about biblical stuff, we're talking about business and moving stuff forward, right? My other close friends, same thing. These are our talks. These are, we're either talking about business, family, or God,
Mhm.
not necessarily in that order, right? But those are the three things that are like, those are our conversations.
Mhm.
And when it came to like this week and us going through this stuff, hey, what can I do? Can I help you? Do you guys need us to take kids, um, what can I do for you? One of them this morning, he knew like this week had been kind of challenging for us, and I didn't even go into details with him. It's just some of the life stuff. And, he hits me up, not yesterday, the day before. Hey, can you make it to the gym tomorrow? Let's go to the gym
Mhm.
together. And, I did make plans, and I ended up, I didn't sleep that night. And so I just, about 4 o'clock in the morning said, hey, you try to sleep for an hour. Like, haven't really slept tonight. It's just one of those nights I couldn't sleep, had issues sleeping. Okay. So then we rescheduled, I said, hey, I'll make it happen no matter what today. Right. And so, like, we go and we have this, hour or so session at the gym. And, as we're lifting, we're talking. And once again, God and business. Right.
Mhm.
And both of them together in the sense of how we see God moving in our lives and influencing our business and the different things that we do and right.
Mhm.
And these are the conversations that we're having. These are the things that are going on, that are occurring. And this is the stuff that's super important because it's going to influence your mind, right? They have the sayings that, hey, show me your 5 closest friends, I'll show you your net worth.
Mhm.
You show me 5 people, if 5 people that do X, Y, and Z, you're the sixth, you
Yeah.
know? And so these things are really important when it comes to the success of your relationship and being careful, right? We talked about, you know, I fortunately enough have had built a circle of people around me now that I can be honest with. And, it's, if there is any negative talk for some reason that comes out, shifting of mindset, you know, coaching, accountability, mentoring, like, and we bounce it back and forth, right? And it's this constant like uplifting, like pouring into each other of helping each other, teaching each other, continuing to build. Our conversations aren't, hey, let's go get drinks and watch a football game. It's, hey, you want to grab coffee and talk about business moves? Hey, you want to grab coffee and go study this book of the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Like these are the things that are occurring. And I think this is an important thing to really deep dive into when it comes to relationships, because like I said, it is going to influence it.
Yeah.
I've been there before where I have friends that are, talking about this and that, and they're liking all the Instagram models and the conversations, or complaining about their spouse, or complaining about this, complaining about that. And it is massively detrimental to your life and your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it over and over and over, where you have these situations where guys are just falling into these traps because they're in this circle, and guys are losing their balls and their ability to actually stand up and say, I don't really want to be around this.
Yeah.
You guys are pretty negative. I don't like the way you're talking about this and that all the time. Like, I'm good, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because what? We're scared to be alone for, maybe 6 months or a year because we're working on ourselves, and so, at the end of that, we'll meet different people that will match where we want to be, but we don't want to have to go through that for a little while,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it's not really much different for girls, but my circle of friends is pretty small right now, but a lot of that is because of the same thing, just not wanting certain things in my life anymore. And then trying to find people who are on that same page.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do, to be honest, as crazy as it seems. But, I definitely have been in the position of having circle of friends who, you know, we were very uplifting to each other, but that was detrimental to the relationship, because
Right.
what you don't realize is that you're like hyping each other up really in your bad habits, like the things that aren't necessarily good. And we don't often like play the other side of like, okay, but maybe you need to change something, or,
Nice catch.
What?
Changing the way you said that. You had to
What?
pause yourself. You're like, ah. Anyways, I saw it. They can't see it. This isn't on video. Anyways, continue.
um Now you made me lose my train of thought.
My bad.
Where was I going with that?
Uplifting, but in the wrong ways, which I think that we should touch on, is it's not uplifting, right? We
Yeah,
hide
well,
behind the mask like many things, right? Where we want to hide behind the mask of us being justified and righteous because, well, we're helping our friend and I'm uplifting them, and I'm
yeah.
the what is it, the boss babe mentality, like.
Well, and I think even just that most of the time we're not coming at it from like, is this what God would want for you, or even like we talked about on the last podcast, like typically if women are like complaining about their relationships and stuff, that's when we're like, oh yeah, you're right and he's wrong, and like all of those things. But we're talking about how you should be fighting together and not against each other,
Mhm.
right? And I don't think that we typically are very good at reminding other women that it's about fighting it together. And granted, like, there is stuff, like, people have bad relationships that they shouldn't be in, but I think when you know, have good friendships, that's where you start uplifting each other and, you know, it is a positive environment. So, anyways, needless to say, like, I I know I've personally talked about this before on other podcasts, is like I don't really discuss our relationship with people anymore, and that's purely because I realized that I was doing it for validation reasons, like I just said, you know, wanting someone to tell me that I was right in a certain situation.
Mhm.
And I got that every time, but it also was detrimental because then you have, even though, you know, they were doing it because they wanted to be positive towards me, then they created a negative view of you, which then, you know, had its own set of issues instead of, you know, looking at it like, well, maybe you need to look at this differently. Maybe, you know, maybe you did something, or maybe you need to let something go, or maybe, you know, any of those things that would be a positive attribute to the conversation. That wasn't necessarily happening. And so for me, it just was easier for me to stop feeding into that and wanting the validation of like, "Oh, you're right," and just realizing that I shouldn't be communicating that way with my friends.
Mhm.
But in the same token, like, you know, there was just a time period where my friend group was more of a place for me to go and complain, and, you know, we did just, like, hang out together to drink or, you know, do other things that were not healthy to try and hide our feelings, mask our feelings, basically,
Mhm.
which was really unhealthy. But at the time, you know, like, that's what so many people do. You think that you're doing it to like get rid of whatever, like, oh, I've had a bad week. I'm gonna let loose. Except what you're doing is just like hiding all of it, right?
Mhm.
um Anyways, that's probably a whole other topic. But in saying that, I realized this week, because I had one of my friends come over um the other night, and it was just like this realization to me that like I haven't had that for a while. Like a
Mhm.
friend that can come over and like we can just hang out and talk. But we don't have to have drinks or do anything else. Like we can just hang out and have conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think that's like a first
Yeah.
for me, to be honest.
Well, nice.
And
You know, I saw that like a side of you that I know is there, but has been almost in hiding for a little bit, where it was like when you had that, you also went and did like you're finding ways to like spend more time just being you, enjoying you, and also like engaging the kids more, right?
mm,
Like you know, I don't even know if you met with, you know, your friends at the park today or whatever, if it was just you, but like stuff like that, right? Like you realize, okay, the kids are struggling a little bit when they come home. They're struggling to shift gears, and they've been kind of trapped all day and being rambunctious. And you know, I'm trying to wrangle them in, and instead of this fight, like let's give them an outlet, right? And so you go and you take them to the park today, and they go and play, right?
yeah.
And which I guess was just you taking them. And, like last night, you did other stuff yesterday. And then, you saw this thing at the store that was like, it was, a giant cookie the size of a pie, basically, that was on sale. And it came with decorating stuff. And it's like, hey, after dinner, like, you guys can decorate this together after, but you have to clean up your mess for, it's like, there was this other shift that was, you have been struggling a little bit lately, and this like the mom fun, like engaging kids has all come out of this too, right? Of you, like you said, having and I don't want to say it's the friend like necessary, and it probably is part of it, right? But it's this package deal that's coming where you are actually able to, like you said, just enjoy time. You're not escaping life, right? You're not going and drinking or,
Well,
doing any of that stuff to escape, and you and your friend hanging out and being crazy and drinking are escaping, your husband or your life, right? It's no, hey, I'm just spending quality time with a good person.
yeah. Well, that's the difference that I was kind of getting to, is like finding people that, like you were talking about, where you can have these conversations and they're uplifting with the guys. Like, I'm finding that now with new friends, and that I can have conversations like we were talking about with like kids, and like, hey, I'm kind of having this issue, like struggling with this area. And instead of it being like dismissive, like, oh, the kids type of thing, she's like, well, maybe have you ever thought about trying this, and like giving me positive, like, hey, maybe you could do this might help type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that the positive things instead of just negative things constantly. But even like, we went on a hike together today, and just having similar conversations, and both of us, talking about struggles that we've had, and being able to like relate it back to like biblical things and be like, hey, you know, maybe we're going through this because this is going on, and maybe it's because we're not fully giving up something, and so we're being attacked because we're not letting it go, and just being able to have those kind of conversations, which are actually like positive changes in your life, instead of being like, oh yeah, whatever the case may be. Oh yeah, your husband's the worst and you're totally, right
Mm-hmm.
in what you're doing, or, you know, it's typical conversations that women know that they have.
Right.
um and so it really is a completely different like situation and scenario, and just being able to have conversations and it not being like, oh, your husband is the worst, or whatever the case may be. It's like, hey, maybe, maybe it's because of this. Like, maybe you need to let go of this, or, those type of conversations instead, which are super uplifting, and help bring you to a place of like reflection, and um further knowledge and deepening your relationship with God type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is super important and impactful to your relationship. But it can be hard, because I do think that sometimes it's really hard to find those people that are kind of in that same spot, in that same headspace. So it can be kind of lonely when you're trying to find those people, and I don't necessarily think that, I don't know, at least for me, like, I don't need a huge circle of friends. Like, having a few close friends that I know are going to be positive and uplifting
Mm-hmm.
are way more impactful than just having like a whole bunch of friends that, aren't really doing much for your life.
It's funny, but it's there's this. saying in kind of the wealth building community, that um, growth is lonely. And basically, there's a reason why, a school bus has X amount of seats and a Lamborghini has one, like basically, or two seats.
Yeah.
Um, and, that's a little materialistic, right? And I mean, I fall very much on the side of like, as long as you're putting God at the center of what you're doing, like there's nothing that says you can't have success, right? And we talk about this, about how, and this is what's great about having friends that are uplifting and actually really trying to help you be better. Um, there's nothing wrong with success. There's nothing in the Bible that tells you can't be successful. There's nothing in the Bible that says you can't have a lot of money or be wealthy or any of that, right? What it does say is do everything for the glory of me, right?
Mhm.
And so with that, I would agree in the sense that like, I have a few people I talk to and, that I could probably call friends. And, you know, I do say, there's definitely some people that I talk to more regularly that I call friends. And then, I have like my circle of close friends, right? But you've only got like, for me, it's a couple of people, for you, same thing, like couple of people,
Yeah.
you know, um, and the reality there is that just that is what happens, right? If you've got 20 people that you're like, these are my friends, you know what I mean? Like, more than likely, most of those people are not good for you,
Yeah.
right? I could be wrong. There's outliers that always exist, but like when you see people that are really on like a one track, I'm going, to make my life better. I'm going to give value and pour into others around me, and you're really focused on what God's mission for you is and who you are and who your identity that he's called you to be is, no matter how that looks, right? Like that may look like, the thing is success is not based on any one measure. It's based on the personal measures that you set, right? With factoring in your true potential. And no matter how that looks, when you're on that path, your circle will get small.
Hmm.
You're going to go through a phase where that circle is going to be non existent,
Hmm.
and then it's going to be small,
Yeah.
right? And what you're going to realize is those 20 or 30 or 40 people in your phone, right? You might have 1,000 people in there, but you're like, oh man, I got all these people, got my back. When it really comes to getting tough and in tough situations, you probably don't have any, right?
Hmm.
When you come out the other side and you do get to that small circle, those are the people that actually have your back, right? And
Yeah.
like you said, like you will know those people by the response to your problems.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Not a single one of my friends are like, hey, let me make you a charity case. But if I'm like, hey, I'm really struggling with this, they're like, cool, let me help you fix that.
Hmm.
Right. And it doesn't matter what that situation may be, right?
Yeah.
And like you just explained, you were spending time with one of your friends. You're like, hey, this is my struggle right now. And they weren't like, oh, it's so hard. Like the typical, I feel like this is a struggle, and not to take away from like parenting or the stay-at-home parenting stuff, right? Because that is a challenge. And I'm never gonna say it's not. But there's a difference when people validate you because they don't want to hurt your feelings and no, let me help you be better, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you described, right? It wasn't this like, oh yeah, it's so hard and nobody helps you and it's just so bad, victim mentality, right? It was, Yeah, I understand. It can definitely be tough. Here's some things that have worked for me. You should try this. You should check this out. Like, did you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was like actually like, hey, let's build you up,
Yeah.
right? And that's where that influence and that circle that you have around you is going to make all the difference on your relationship. And I'll go back to what I said at the beginning of this relation or this podcast. If you feel like your friend zone is in a neutral party or they're uplifting you in some of the ways we described, oh, you don't need no man. If their way of uplifting you is pointing the finger at anything else besides you and your role, and let's help make you better personally, they're not actually uplifting. They're not
Yeah.
actually the side that is helping create connection in your relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that might suck to hear. You might not like that. You might have been friends with that person for 5 or 10 or 25 years, but do you value them more than your marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do, well, it's probably a conversation you should have with your spouse about, you valuing friendships over your spouse, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to be very careful. You have to be selective, and you have to be very honest with yourself about these relationships outside of your intimate relationship, right? In the sense of your friends and who they are and how they interact and how they respond to if you have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's the telltale sign, right? I talk about it in business all the time. You can't judge somebody or something when things are going good, because everybody's great when things are going good. It's when things go wrong and how they respond to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And looking at your friendships are the same exact way, right?
Yeah.
When you feel like your life is together and you don't feel like you have any problems and this, that, and the other, well, all your friends might be great. They they probably aren't, and they're probably doing things that isn't great for you or your relationship, but you're not going to catch it. But when things go wrong in your life, their response to that tells you everything.
Well, and I think it's important, like, I don't know. Maybe everyone won't view it this way, but like, you're my best friend now. And if my other best friends or friend or whatever don't see that, and try to make that, like, uplift that relationship and it be positive, then, like, I don't I don't want that in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So for this action step,
Mhm.
normally we'd talk crap about why you haven't done the relationship audit yet, because it's free and it doesn't cost you anything, and it doesn't even cost you your email or a bunch of personal information. You just have to print it. So it does cost you a couple pieces of printer paper and some ink on your printer. It does cost you that. However,
Uh-huh.
instead of going down that rabbit hole, talking
Uh-huh.
about if they go to the covenantchronicles.com and go click on the relationship audit, they can print it out for free. What we're
So
actually
not
going to tell
that.
them to do,
Uh-huh.
if you want to go print that out, you can actually use the back of the sheets, unless you're one of those weirdos that prints on both sides of the paper, like we talk about. You're weird if you do that. Yes, you, babe, you're weird.
It's
So
normal.
only weirdos print double-sided paper. You're already killing the trees. Stop it. That's a fantasy that you're saving trees.
It takes up less paper.
I don't care. It
I don't want
makes
that
it
many
a
pieces of
pain in
paper.
the butt to read. Anyways, that being said, you're not one of those weirdos, you can also do this on the back of those pages, or you can use a notebook or just a piece of paper out of your printer or whatever you got. Blank pages in the back of your Bible, blank pages in the back of a book you like. And you should audit your friend circle and be really honest with yourself. And write down 3 people that you need to spend less time with. And then write down 3 people that you need to spend more time with.
Listen, losing friends is hard. I get it. And I'm sure people are going to be like resistant to that. But the friends that you could make when you start praying about bringing good people into your life, pretty awesome, pretty worth it.
There was a time period where you and I went out on a date night. You'll remember this. And I think we went out to dinner, and then we went and this is back when we still drank because we kind of gave that up. But we went to a bar to just go shoot darts, to do something different together. And we were sitting at the bar drinking, and we're like, we'd shot a couple games of darts, and we're kind of sitting there and we're like, not really ready to call it a night, but didn't feel like we wanted to hang out at the bar anymore. And we're like, who could we even call right now? It was like one of our kid-free nights, you know? So we're like trying to take advantage of it. And we're like, who could we even call right now to hang out? And it was like, we didn't have that many people. And the people that we did have were like, are they somebody that we really want to spend time with though? Because like, probably not healthy. And I think that was like a massive turning point for us where we shifted the other way. And it's funny. And we just said, well, if we go through a period of no friends, then like it is what it is. But that was one of the things that we talked about like a year from then. We're like, we're going to have a different friend circle that's going to actually uplift us and build the, you know, be part of going in the same direction, the same flow, and be part of building the life that we want.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because we got there.
Yeah. We definitely prayed about it for a while. And it happened. But it did take a little bit of time. Anyways, yes.
Go out at your friend circle. That's what you got to do.
Yep. And until next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.